Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're capturing the absolute essentials of this book in 8 minutes or less. We're distilling the core concepts of data protection so you can effectively bulletproof your business. Whether you're an IT novice or a seasoned systems admin, we are going to walk through a highly structured masterclass based entirely on the foundational concepts of backup for dummies. Let's get right into it.
Okay, let's kick things off with a truly staggering number. $200,000. Back in 1980, that is exactly how much it cost for just a single gigabyte of disk storage. To put that into perspective for a second, that exact same gigabyte costs about 4 cents today. It's wild, right? And because storage has become so incredibly cheap, our reliance on massive amounts of data has just skyrocketed, which has fundamentally changed how we actually need to protect it all.
Now, while our technology has obviously advanced light years beyond the bulky punch cards of the 1960s, a surprising number of businesses out there still treat their backup strategy as just copying a few files over to a hard drive. But as our systems evolve to include complex virtual machines and the cloud, that old-school approach, yeah, that's a recipe for absolute disaster. We need to modernize your approach.
So let's start by busting some common jargon, just to make sure we're all on the same page. When IT professionals talk about data protection, or DP, we are not talking about encrypting credit card numbers to keep hackers out. What we mean is the comprehensive backup and recovery of everything. Your raw data, your programs, and that foundational system software that literally keeps the lights on.
And that brings us to the really critical difference between data protection and disaster recovery, which we call DR. Think of DR as your absolute worst-case scenario playbook. It's that intensive, all-hands-on-deck process you trigger when a flood destroys your physical server room or a massive ransomware attack manages to wipe out your entire operational network. Section 1. The Data Protection Reality Check.
The entire foundation of this explainer relies on the golden mantra of backups. You have to keep it simple, ensure it's complete, and lock it down so it's safe. Simplicity is honestly your best friend here, mostly because it prevents catastrophic human errors when you're panicking under pressure, desperately trying to restore a down system. It also must be complete, capturing everything, including system metadata, and it absolutely must be secure from any kind of tampering.
Because ultimately, if you capture your data incorrectly right from the starting line, there's absolutely no complex recovery tool or expensive IT consultant in the world that can save you. The cure here is pure prevention.
Section 2. How to capture data.
So you generally have two main ways to grab your data. While traditional file backups are totally fine for simple things, like, say, recovering a single deleted spreadsheet, image backups are just vastly superior for larger systems. An image backup is essentially a superset. It grabs all those individual files, sure, but it also grabs the invisible system metadata that's required to actually rebuild and boot an entire server entirely from scratch.
Section 3. The 3 backup types. Now, when choosing how to back things up, you have 3 tactical trade-offs. First, a full backup. This captures absolutely everything. But as you can probably guess, it takes ages and eats up a massive amount of storage space. Then you have a differential backup, which saves time by only capturing what changed since your last full backup. Finally, an incremental backup is incredibly fast because it only grabs the tiny changes made since the very last incremental backup. The catch? Well, if you use incremental, you're going to need an unbroken chain of every single previous backup to restore your system successfully.
Deciding which of those 3 types to actually use relies heavily on your RPO, or Recovery Point Objective. Your RPO forces you to ask a really tough business question. Can your operations survive losing an hour of data? A day? A whole week? If you run a high-volume e-commerce site, your RPO might literally be 5 minutes. But if you run a small local bakery, a single daily backup might be perfectly fine. Your RPO dictates your entire schedule.
Section 4. Storing your backups safely.
The absolute gold standard for storage is the famous 3-2-1 rule. This rule mandates that you keep multiple copies of your data across at least 2 different media types. You really want to mix here. You might use incredibly fast local disks for rapid, everyday recoveries. But then you pair that with a secondary media, like remote cloud storage, or even highly cost-effective tape drives if you're dealing with petabytes of data, just to ensure deep, bulletproof redundancy.
But beyond the physical media itself, you absolutely have to get that data off-site. Keeping your only backup in the exact same room as your main server completely defeats the purpose. You can stream your data over an online network to an active secondary location, or you can use a cheaper dark site, which is basically an empty server room you only power up to test your recovery. Or, as is increasingly common today, you can seamlessly send your backups directly to cloud infrastructure. The sheer physics of moving all this data off-site is actually fascinating. By using a surprisingly simple technique like compression, you can literally halve the size of your backup file. Think about it. If a daily incremental backup normally takes 90 minutes over a standard 100 megabit network, slicing that file size in half cuts your transfer time drastically, which frees up your network bandwidth for actual business operations.
Section 5. Management and Data Recovery.
The harsh reality is that backing up takes a ton of computing power and network bandwidth. Because of this, you must define a backup window. For a traditional manufacturing plant, that window might be a quiet 8-hour night shift where it's perfectly safe to slow the servers down. But if you're a 24/7 global business, you have to carefully manage your operations so those backups run continuously without crippling your live performance.
And this is exactly why you need incredibly simple, highly documented recovery procedures. When panic hits at 2 a.m. because a massive data loss just occurred, your exhausted IT team should absolutely not be guessing which complex, incompatible software tools to use. They need a verified, step-by-step checklist.
Ultimately, modern data protection requires an agile plan. You aren't just protecting a single beige box sitting in a closet anymore. Your plan must seamlessly span physical servers, remote employee laptops, virtual machines, and the cloud, giving you the power to recover anything from a single lost presentation to an entirely wiped corporate network.
So, I want to leave you with this critical thought regarding the actual readiness of your own infrastructure. Do you know your RPO? Do you follow the 3-2-1 rule? If a real disaster strikes your data tonight, are you holding a tested, fully documented plan to recover it tomorrow?
That brings us to the end of our masterclass on data protection. Keep your data simple, complete, and safe. If you enjoyed this, subscribe to In 8 Minutes and never miss what matters.